Hello and welcome to Technical Penguin. In this video, I'll be installing a Runleader hour meter. Previously, I replaced the stock battery gauge with the TR16 battery monitor, this one made by Binta. When I did that, I lost the ability to track hours. By adding in a new hour meter, I'll gain that back. Now, I'm going to install that here where the USB port is. I never use this USB port, so it's a good location for me. Some people, I've seen them add it here on this flat part of the side panel. That's perfectly fine. You just need a hole saw to cut a hole there. Now, there are a few ways to wire this, and I think we should get into that first. We'll do an unboxing, but first let's look at the model number. It's RL, that's for Runleader, because sometimes they OEM this for other companies. So Runleader just tells you that it's the Runleader branded one. HM, hour meter. 069 is the series. B is the version within that series. So there's an A, B, and an X, and they all have slightly different front screens and slightly different features. The L is the low voltage version. Low voltage in this case is 6 to 60 volts. They also have a higher voltage version. The 1 in this case, that's the connector. There are 3 different connectors. The 1 is probably the best one for our application. It's a watertight 4-pin connector. And then the 1 is on the end, that tells us what features this particular version has. There's a 0 and a 1, and it varies based on whether it has the ability to set the initial hours. So now we can go ahead and open this up. And the first thing you'll find is the instructions. And then you'll see the meter. And then you lift this out. Inside here are all the pins and connectors. There's also a cutout template in case you are going to rely on this for determining your hole size. So let's move the rest of this out of the way and just look at our options for connections. Let's open this bag up. So in there are 5 pins and a connector. And you'll see that that is very similar to what is in here. This is only 4 pins. They give you an extra pin unless you mess up. But these are basically the same things. So you have an option of attaching it to an existing wiring harness or using the existing one and attaching this. In this video, we're just going to be covering attaching it using this, so you can put these aside. Here's how this works. The black wire always goes to battery negative. The red wire can either go directly to battery positive or to the key switch, and that provides power for the display. The yellow wire provides power to the clock, so that can either be controlled through the key switch or some other mechanism to provide power that will denote when the clock should actually be running. For this video, we're going to be using the wires that power the stock gauge and wiring it similarly. The stock gauge has 4 spade connectors on the back. These are 3/16 or 4.8 millimeters. One of them is not connected and is usually covered. One of these is connected to battery negative. And these 2 are connected to battery positive when the key switch is on. So we'll use that same battery negative on the black wire, and the yellow and red wires will be connected to battery positive when the key is on. What this means is turning the key on will both turn this meter on and start the clock. I've gone ahead and added 3/16 spade connectors to the end of the yellow wire, the black wire, and the red wire, and shrink tubing over the end of the white wire to make sure that it doesn't short against anything. I used uninsulated spade connectors and then insulated them with color-coded shrink tubing. I make a lot of wiring harnesses, so I have these materials around. For most people, this is completely unnecessary. For most people, I recommend using insulated connectors. The 3/16 size is a little harder to come by. You can find this kit on Amazon. I'll provide a link. There are 3 different sizes, in case you're not familiar, of spade connectors. There are 1/8 inch or 2.8 millimeter, 3/16 inch or 4.8 millimeter, and 6.3 millimeter or 1/4 inch. We're going to be using the middle one, that's the 3/16. So if you get a kit like this is good for this mower because it has a lot of the connectors that you'll need. You'll want to use the middle one and you'll want to use the red one because we're dealing with 22 gauge wire, and 22 is actually the minimum size that you can use with this type of connector. Another option is to use a butt splice connector. If you don't mind cutting the terminals off on your wiring harness, you could cut that, put both wires in here, and crimp both ends. But we're going to do this without modifying the stock wiring harness, so go ahead and get your 3/16 male spade connectors on your red, black, and yellow wires, and make sure your white wire is either covered in shrink tubing or electrical tape at the end. The meter comes with this bracket installed. You want to remove this so you can dry fit as you're drilling your hole. So go ahead and remove the bracket and place the bracket and the nuts in the box for safekeeping. And before we get started, make sure you have a pair of safety glasses. Whether you're drilling into the plastic or the metal, you want to protect your eyes. Now we're going to remove the control panel. Start by removing the key, then remove all 7 of the screws that are holding the panel down. Now carefully tilt the panel up and set it on its side. Now we'll remove the power connections for the USB port. These have a catch on them, so make sure to press with your thumb just above where the male and female parts meet. To make sure these don't short on anything, we'll wrap the ends with electrical tape. Go ahead and tuck that down inside. Now unscrew the retaining ring for the USB port and remove it. Then set the panel down and pull the USB port out. Lift the panel up one more time and place a paper towel under the hole. You want to make sure that it's far enough down that it is not going to catch on the bit, and you want to push any wires that are also sticking up out of the way, and then put the panel back. To prevent damage to the mower or injury to ourselves, add 3 screws to secure the panel in place as we are drilling. You do not want to use these 2 screws because they only attach the panel to the plastic, not to the frame. So I would use these 3 screws. Go ahead and make sure they're tight. The hole left by the USB port is 1 1/8 inch in diameter. It's not actually a circle, it has flats on each side. The new hour meter requires a 2-inch hole, so we'll be using a step drill to enlarge it to 2 inches and make it round. To extend the life of your step drill, be sure to add some cutting oil. Then position your step drill in the hole. You don't want to go too fast, and you want to make sure you hold it firmly because it's going to want to resist you. Now, in mine, the 2-inch is the 5th one from the top. So I'm going to stop when I have 4 that show when it's sitting flush in the hole. So that's a good place to stop. I'm going to check fit real quickly. And it's pretty close, but it's actually hitting a little bit on the frame right there. So I have 2 options. I could open this up and cut the frame, or I can take a file and just try to file down the frame a little bit. Now test fit, and that seems like it'll work great. So now I can take a cloth, wipe off any oil or shavings that are on top, One thing you might notice is a very small part of the USB symbol is not cut off, where most of it is actually cut off. When you put the meter in, you will still see about half that circle. So what I usually do is I take a black Sharpie and I just color in that circle, and then it's really not that noticeable after that. So now make sure you have the rubber gasket on your hour meter and go ahead and install it. Now we'll want to remove our 3 screws that are holding our panel in. And lift the panel up and set it on its side. Now carefully fish out the paper towel. It will have metal shavings on it. Let's see, we collected a bunch of metal shavings. If there are any more, you can take a rag and wipe them away. Then take your bracket and put it on the meter. And then take your 2 nuts and now you want to get this just finger tight, but tight enough that it's not going to move very easily. And then you'll want to kind of look at the front and get it lined up. And once you're satisfied with it, take a 7mm wrench and tighten the nuts. You'll want to dry test your panel. Most likely the bracket from the meter is going to prevent the holes from lining up on your control panel. In my case, it's off by about 1/8 of an inch. And if you look here, you can see it's because this sticks out. So you'll need to cut a little bit of metal away from here. If you have a rotary tool like this Milwaukee one or a Dremel, you could use that. Or you can do it with a file. I'm going to go ahead and do it with a file because it provides a slightly better finish, and I think most people will have a file handy to do it. So now this should fit in. Yeah, that seems pretty good. But we have to take it out one more time and wire it up. Now we want to connect the wires that went to the original stock meter to our new wiring harness. So start with red. Red can go to either green, and yellow can go to the other green, and black can go to black. And then make sure you have good connections, and you can set all those wires down in there, and then just connect this to the back of the hour meter. And then we can reinstall the control panel for the last time. And now we reinstall all 7 screws. Don't tighten anything yet until all the screws are in place. Once they're in place, go ahead and tighten them all down. Now for the fun part, you can peel off the plastic on the screen and go ahead and turn the mower on. To set the initial hours, press the set button twice until you get to H set, and then hold the set button down until this digit flashes. Then to change that, you just press the set button. I'm going to go for a 1 there, and then hold the set button down and it'll go to the next digit. So in this case, I'm going to go with 6, and then I'm going to hold the set button down again until the next digit is flashing, and I'm going to go with 3, And that's all I need. So now I'm not going to touch it for 10 seconds, and then it will reset. And there we go. You can see TOT flashing here that indicates the clock is running, and you can see TOT, the light here, that indicates this is total time. If we hit it one time, you can see the green light moves over to job, and we have job flashing. And so this will let you time things like maintenance or how long it takes to cut a particular lawn, but after a few seconds, it will revert back to total time. If you are using the job function and you want to reset it, just go over to the job function and hold the set button down until it resets to 0. When you turn the key off, it will still be on for about 30 seconds and then the display will turn off. And that's all there is to installing this Runleader hour meter in your Ryobi mower. It should work the same for other hour meters, but I've used a few, and this particular model from Runleader is the one I prefer. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. For more tips and information on your Ryobi 48-volt mowers, go to technicalpenguin.net. Thanks for watching.